Alright, welcome. So we have some news. We finally got some Clone Wars news. I'm doing this a little bit off the cuff. I just kind of read through the article, got set up here, and I'm going to do this a little bit off the cuff, more off the cuff than I usually like to. That could be good, could be bad, might stumble through a few things. I'm going to do the best I can to interpret these cards and the information that we got the best that I can. Others might interpret things a little bit differently. But this is my very first take. So we saw a fair number of cards that we hadn't seen before. We also, got some cards that we had already seen, but there's also a lot of cards that we still haven't seen. So there's still quite a bit left to be spoiled here. But I'm going to go through the cards and the information that we got in the article and get started. Expect a lot of videos coming up between now and December 4th, I believe. We're expecting to have a release. So today's article was for the Galactic Republic starter, and the first card that they had, we have ObiWan Kenobi. We had already seen him before. While a friendly ship is defending, when it's spends a readied redirect token, it may reduce its total damage by 1 before it suffers damage. That's good, so he's making you a little bit more survivable. I take that as you get to do the redirect as well, so when you spend that readied, so a green redirect, you get to reduce it by 1 and then do your redirect. So good survivability type commander there. The other commander that we already had seen before was Bail Organa. Bail says when a friendly ship reveals a command, you can discard up to 1 token of each type from this card. For each token that you discard, that ship gains 1 additional command dial matching that token's type. So Bail, when you start the game, you get to place 5 tokens on him. Any combination of what you want of navigate or engineering. It's not 5 of each. It's any combination you want to of 5. So you could do 5 engineering and 5 navigate, or you could split them, 3-2, 4-1, however you want to do it. And my guess is you're not going to do 5 of one and none of the other. You're going to do some combination of them, because here, in theory, you could have a ship getting 3 commands in a turn, which could be, and so it allows a ship to be more aggressive in its command dials, because you have a banked engineering, you have a banked navigate to get out of town or to move into better firing range when you need it. So you can run those concentrate fires or squadron commands a little bit more freely with this. So then we have our ship cards. So we'd seen the Counselor class cards before, but we hadn't fully seen the Acclimator cards. So here we have our Acclimator 1 class assault ship, 2 anti-squadron, 7 hull, 3 command, 3 squadron, 4 engineering, a brace, a redirect, a salvo. Nothing surprising there. We had seen the nav chart before. Nav chart's a little bit funky, not very much yaw. It's faster than a Victory. It can go speed 3, but it doesn't have any more yaw. So you might want to use, this is a good ship for Bail. Bail's going to have those extra navs that we can throw to these ships if they're doing something else in order to help them navigate a little bit better. All red and black dice, which is interesting. No blue dice here. This is kind of like a Victory 1 in some aspects, a little bit less on the dice. 4 shields in the front, 2 on the sides, 2 in the back. So not a tremendous number of shields, but okay. And it's not very expensive though. It's 66 points. That's cheaper than a Victory, so that's good. And for upgrade card slots, we have Officer, Weapons Team, 2 offensive retrofits, a turbo laser, and an ordnance slot. Then we have our Acclimator 2 ship, so same hull, same command, same squadron, same engineering. Changes out one of the blacks on the anti-squadron for a blue. Same defensive slots, same nav chart. We change out one of the blacks in the rear for a blue, and we add a blue to the front. So a little bit more dice, a little bit more expensive at 71 points. For this one, we do have, though, an officer, a weapons team. We traded out the 2 offensive retrofits for a defensive retrofit, so we can take ECMs on this one. So this is your more survivable ship. This might lean more towards being your command ship. With it being more survivable, you want your commander to survive for as long as possible. And then you have the ordnance and the turbo laser as well. So the big difference with these, slight change in the dice, and swapping out those 2 offensive retrofits for the defensive retrofit. Then we have the generic V19. The generic V19 we'd seen before has escort and swarm, and the black anti-ship dice. But we do have the ace. The ace squadron is Axe. Axe is your ace V19 Torrent squadron, so you can only take one of him in a game because he's unique. And he has the same abilities as the generic, where he has escort and swarm. He has the same dice, but he gains an ability where before a friendly squadron at distance 1, so it has to be pretty close to you. But with swarm type squadrons, you're going to want to stay close to each other anyways. At distance 1 suffers damage during an attack. You may spend 1 defense token to reduce the total damage by 1. So that's pretty good. Now you see in his defense token suite, he has a brace and an evade. We've never seen, up to this point in the game, a squadron with an evade token. Generally speaking, I think that evade is there for him to be able to use his ability, although he could use it in theory if he's getting flaked at long range, which more and more ships are gaining long range flak. But generally speaking, I believe that evade is probably there more to activate his ability than anything else. They didn't want to give him scatter for whatever reason. Probably because Jedi, we're guessing here, but I'm guessing most of the Jedi are going to be scatter aces. And they didn't want to overdo it on scatter aces, but they want him to have another token that he could use. And maybe they didn't want to give him the extra brace as well, so they threw the evade in there, which he in theory could use, but generally speaking won't be. I do think he's pretty good. Now the interesting thing is, so one thing that you might want to think about with him is he's escort, which means the other squadrons have to shoot at you before they shoot at anything else. So that doesn't work with his ability really great. So you might want to keep him out of engagement with the squadrons, but still close to your squadrons. So not engaged with enemy squadrons, but close enough to your own squadrons that you're going to be able to use his ability. So you're going to have to fly him a little bit differently, probably a little bit carefully, but I do like him. I think he's a great unique squadron. So now we have some upgrades. So we have Clone Captain Zach. So you see on the left side of the card the blue Concentrate Fire, which means at the beginning of the game you're going to put a Concentrate Fire token on this card. And this says, while attacking from your side or rear hull zones, you may exhaust this card to add 1 die to your attack pool of a color already in your attack pool. You cannot add a dice to salvo attacks. You can spend tokens from this card to ready it. So basically you can get 2 free uses. The first one, you can be able to use the token that's on it to refresh him for free once. and then after that, you're gonna have to generate concentrate fire tokens on your own in order to be able to refresh him. He's 5 points, not super cheap, but not super expensive either. How often are you going to get to use him more than the 2 times? It's hard to say. It depends how you fly. But because he's helping your side and your rears, hopefully if you have him on an acclimator, you're lining up the fronts, and as the your opponent might be moving around, maybe you start using him to get the extra dice onto those ships as they try and evade your front arc and get around to the sides. So more of a late game thing, and maybe two turns is all you need out of him. We'll have to see what other officers available. For the slot officer, up to this point in the game, is the most competitive slot in the game. Right now, I'm not sure that he's, compared to other officers, the strongest choice at 5 points. But we'll have to just see what other officers come for the Galactic Republic. Okay, then we have clone gunners. We had seen this before. For this one, you have to have a concentrate fire token, and when you do, so this one, it's a little bit different. So you can discard 1 concentrate fire token. So this is interesting. So I need to really think about this one a little bit. So this says that you need to use a concentrate fire token to use the card. That's what the first concentrate fire token is. So that means you have to have a dial or a token of your own. And then you can discard a concentrate fire token assigned to another friendly ship that's at distance 1 to 5 of the defender. Not 1 to 5 of you, but 1 to 5 of the defender that you're attacking. If you do, add a blue die set to an accuracy icon to your attack pool. It's interesting. I have to see if you have to do a concentrate fire token, and then in order to be able to use the card to begin with, and then are able to use concentrate fire token to get the ability. That's a lot of work to get those together. It goes back to the fleet support card that we've seen before, where it has a certain number of concentrate fire tokens that you can send out whenever you want, or when that ship activates. The problem is the Galactic Republic to this point isn't going to have a fleet support slot in order to be able to take that card. Because of that, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I do think, though, so here's a prediction for you. I think in the first wave after the starters with the Pelta, I think one of the versions of the Pelta is going to have a fleet support slot. And that would help this a little bit. Now, it's interesting because it's set to the accuracy, so you can get free accuracy. Now, there are ways that your defender can block accuracies, but it also opens things up that if you take this and you have an ion cannon slot and are able to, and if you want to take, I can't think, leading shots, is it? It's one where you're able to take away a blue die in order to leading shots, in order to re-roll as many dice as you want. So you're getting that blue dice for free. So if they can get around the accuracy, well, now you can use that extra blue die for leading shots and help you out there. Then we have Hyperspace Rings. This is a Squadron type upgrade. Goes into offer. So offensive retrofit, new players, offensive retrofit tends to be focused on Squadron type abilities, not exclusively. So the name of the upgrade is a little bit misleading to me. I've always thought it was a little bit weird. It doesn't reference Squadrons in the name of the upgrade. It's offensive retrofit, but it tends to be focused on Squadrons, and that's where this goes. And this says, before deploying fleets, you may choose a number of friendly non-rogue squadrons. Rogue squadrons are powerful squadrons that can move and attack in the squadron phase. They don't have to be activated. Other squadrons have to be activated in order to be able to move and shoot. up to your squadron value, those squadrons gain scout. So that means if you're squadron value 3, you can set aside 3 non-rogue squadrons. And with the scout ability, the way I understand it, you can be able to deploy your squadrons anywhere on the board. You don't have to, it's not limited to range 2 of one of your ships. With the exception that you can't be within range 5 of an enemy ship. Now, you could deploy these early and put them, in theory, in your opponent's deployment zone, as long as there's no ship within 5 of you. And then they could deploy a ship that's closer than 5 of you. So it's just something to think about when you're using a card like this. Now, the interesting thing is the picture on the card has a delta in it, and the deltas are going to have Jedi unique pilots, and I'm going to guess that most of them are probably going to be rogue and scatter aces. So if they have rogue, you're not going to be able to use them for this. You will be able to use the generic delta for this, though. Then we have Reactive Gunnery. We had seen this before. This lets you, uses the defensive retrofit slot, lets you use any of your tokens to get the salvo effect. Now, I don't think that your Galactic Republic ships are going to use this a lot, because your ships, most of them have a salvo token natively. This is a card that I think is more targeted towards Rebel and Imperial players in order to generate a salvo attack, because generally, Rebel and Imperials don't have salvo. It's a new thing in the game. So we'll have to wait and see on this one. Again, I don't know that how much, at least initially, you're going to use this card in a Galactic Republic fleet. So swivel mount batteries, this is a new upgrade. We haven't seen this one before. This one does exhaust, and you do have to ready it using a concentrate fire token. It's an expensive upgrade, so this one will have to see it played in order to become a believer on this one. I'm not 100% sure that this is going to be the best turbo laser upgrade that you could possibly use. It might be pretty good, though. Well, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. It is Galactic Republic only, though, so that's interesting. So the Separatists, Imperial, and Rebels will not be able to use this card. This is Galactic Republic only. You see that with the icon next to the value of the card, which is 8 in the bottom right. And this is, when you reveal a command, you may exhaust this card to choose one of your hull zones and mark it with a focus token. This is a new token. I don't know a lot about it, but obviously you're going to focus your fire out of that hull zone, I believe. That's what it's going to mean. While attacking a ship from that hull zone, you can add a die of any color from an adjacent hull zone. So if you're shooting out your front, you can take one die out of your side and add it to your armament for your front. While attacking from the adjacent hull zone, however, you'd have to remove a die from your attack pool. And then it says when you ready the card, so when you flip the card at the end of the turn, hopefully if you have a concentrate fire token, you would remove the focus token. Which is interesting now that I think about it, so I hadn't thought about this before. But if that focus token is already on, if you're not able to flip the card and you have that focus token on you, I'm not sure what that's going to do to you. I don't know if that means that your adjacent hull zones are going to permanently lose a die until you can ready it. I don't know. I'm not sure how that works exactly, because I don't know that the focus is specifically for this card. The focus could mean something a little bit different, but you use that in order to get this additional ability to the focus. So we need to learn a little bit more about focus. So for 8 points, you're not gaining a die. You're just able to move a die. Now, if you can only shoot out your front, maybe you have gunnery teams out your front. So I think gunnery team gets around this. If you have gunnery team on the front and you have 2 ships that you can shoot at out of your front arc, you'll be able to shoot at 1, take 1 die, use this card, take 1 die from your adjacent hull zones, which is your sides, add that to that pool, take the shot, and use that. And then with gunnery teams, take a second shot out of your front at a different ship and not lose any dice. So it's interesting. Maybe it's going to be good. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% convinced yet, especially with the cost to refresh. We'll just have to wait and see. We've never had cost to refresh before. It's a new thing. I think token generation is going to be a bigger part of the game now. So maybe getting those tokens aren't going to be as difficult as it has been in the past. All right, and then we have 2 more cards. So we have our titles. Implacable we had seen before. Implacable says that before an enemy ship or squadron at distance 1 to 2 suffers damage from an attack, you can exhaust that card, the title card, and spend up to 2 shields from your front hull zone in order to reduce the damage for that ship or squadron by that amount, so 1 or 2. That's good, but you have to be close, which means ships are going to be close to attacking you as well. Your front hull zone is what you want to be shooting out of, which means you're exposing that a little bit more to your opponents. So I think this is going to be an order of operations things. Maybe Bail Organa can help by sending an engineering over to Implacable so that a ship takes some damage. Implacable takes that damage away by taking away shields. Then Implacable activates, uses that engineering command in order to get the shields back, possibly. Could be good. Mixed feelings about it right now. We'll see. And then the final title is Nevdota B. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Don't get on me if I'm not. But this is going to be a squadron type. So this is going to be for a carrier. Whatever ship you put this on is going to be a carrier. And for each non-unique squadron, so this wouldn't work for Axe, but it works for your generic V19s. For each non-unique squadron that you activate, it gains Swarm. Now, V19s already have Swarm, so what's the point here? Now, some of the other squadrons from the Squadron pack probably won't have Swarm, so you'll be able to gain Swarm with those, which is pretty good. But then we have a second part of the text here. It says that each squadron that has Swarm, so this is your V19s, that you activate, you can reroll 1 die while attacking a ship. Now that seems pretty good, especially with the V19s, because the V19s have black anti-ship. Black anti-ship is really good as it is, because you've got only 2 blanks, and you've got 6 sides that have at least 1 hit. Now, V19s aren't bombers, so the 2 crit hit sides aren't any different for a V19 than the just hit sides. So I know the black dice have 2 blanks, 2 hit crits, and then 4 hit sides. But for the V19, it's basically 2 blanks, 6 hits. So what this is doing is it's giving you some protection for the case where you roll the blanks for your V19. Now, the chances of you rolling 2 blanks in a row on a V19 are a lot lower. So this is going to really make those black dice on your V19s really consistent. Now, of course, that means you have to be able to get in close to a ship. You're going to be without being engaged with an opponent's other squadrons in order to be able to do this. These types of things, I think squadrons are going to be an even bigger deal in the game than they have been in the past, because a title like this, if your opponent is playing separatists or rebels or imperials, it doesn't matter. If they don't know what faction you're bringing, they're going to know that this is going to be a threat to them, and they're going to have some squadron defense in order to be able to protect themselves from this, because a card like this can eat through a ship's shields and into hull pretty quick, because your acclimators already have 3 squadron. You take one with the offensive retrofit, you can do expanded hangar bays, so you're up to 4 squadrons. If you're able to get a squadron token on that before you do the squadron command, then you can activate 5 squadrons in a turn. And so you have a really good chance of getting 5 hits through to the hull, through shields and into the hull of a defending ship with just 1 squadron command from the Nevdota B. And your opponents are going to want to be able to protect themselves from that. I think this is a really strong card. I worry about this one playing against the Galactic Republic, and I can't see myself not taking this title. Depending on what else is in the kit, because we didn't get everything spoiled. But this is the title that I'm going to take for acclimators if I get them. Use one of the acclimator ones with the 2 offensive retrofits. Use boosted comms, expanded hangar bays. Get a token on this early and activate as many squadrons as I can. Now, if my opponent is prepared for that, I might not get all those into ships, but if I've got expanded hangar bays and there's lots of ships, I might get a pretty good alpha strike for 1 turn where I can really eat into one side, one hull zone of a defending ship. So I like Nevdota B a lot. But thank you very much. We're gonna have a lot of news coming up for the next few weeks, so please, I know I'm a little scattershot about this one. I'll be scattershot about others. I like to plan out my videos, but these news articles, this makes me have to think on my feet. So you can see I was thinking through a lot of things as I was reading there. But thank you very much. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. A lot of exciting stuff coming up. We got some good news about COVID today, so maybe we're gonna, within, not right away, but maybe sometime into the spring of 2021, maybe we'll be able to get together and play in stores again, which would be awesome. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.